right, Lee Sanders here with a very special guest for you boys and girls. Normally we do introductions, but I'm going to go on ahead, let him introduce himself. Go ahead, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I stole that from Road Dogg, but the rest of it is all mine. I am a pillar of society. I am a inspiration to children everywhere. I've got the beard that makes the girls cheer. I am a ring general, but you can call me Christopher Daniels.
Mr.
How's
Daniels,
that?
that's awesome. Pleasure to talk to you tonight, sir. How you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, no problem. Hey, this is awesome. I must say, I'm a big fan of your work. Been following you for a few years now. Great honor to have you.
That's why I got the restraining order, so thank you.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Let me kick this off by asking you, because I know you're a comic buff. I got to get your take on this, because I just reviewed the movie like a couple of weeks ago. What was your take on The Amazing Spider-Man 2?
I actually just saw it this weekend. I dug it, man. I thought the first Amazing Spider-Man, I thought it might be too soon for a reboot, but then I changed my mind after I saw the movie. I wasn't even a big fan of Andrew Garfield until after that movie. Like, I saw him in The Social Network and didn't think that he was Peter Parker-esque, but he completely changed my mind. I really dig how these two movies were more like Ultimate Spider-Man as opposed to Sam Raimi's version, which was sort of like 616 Earth Spider-Man to me. So, and I appreciate the risks they took, especially with the finish. I'm not going to give it away to anybody that hasn't seen it yet, but, you know, the main character or one of the main characters, what happened to that person near the end, that was a big deal. And I was surprised, too, that they spaced out the supervillains the way they did. Like, at first, you heard that there was going to be Rhino and Electro and the Green Goblin, and I think a lot of people might have thought, well, it's going to be the same thing that happened in Spider-Man 3 where there was too many villains. But I think the way that they spaced it out and the way that they told the story, it was really interesting. It was different from anything else where they've always tried to sort of get these superstars to play the villains. And I thought it was a good mix. I thought it was really good.
The only thing I didn't like about it was Jamie Foxx. I don't know if you saw him in, what was that Will Smith movie, Ali? But it just kind of seemed like the directors went, okay, you know what, Jamie Foxx, he had the part down in Ali. Can he bring that back for Amazing Spider-Man 2? Because I thought I was seeing the same character there.
I gotcha. You know what, I never saw Ali front to back, so I'm not really 100% up on, but I know what you're talking about because I've seen clips of his character and the way he looked. I think the only bad thing I thought was it was a weird music choice when he went from being Max Dillon to being Electro. There was like really weird music and really weird like subliminal words going on in the background in his first the first scene where he's sort of going nuts. And I thought that was a little bit much, but I mean, you know, that's nitpicking. I mean, who am I? I haven't made any movies yet, so I'm not sure I can criticize Mark Webb yet.
Right. I see we got the new X-Men Days of Future Past coming up. I'm a longtime X-Men fan. I don't know about you, but like other than the Fatal Attractions and the Age of Apocalypse story arcs, I'm pretty stoked for this. You pretty stoked for it?
Absolutely, man. The first big comic book series and comic book story arc that got me into comic books was Claremont and Burns' X-Men. And so everything from Dark Phoenix to, Days of Future Past, even the stuff before that with Proteus and, Alpha Flight, all that stuff that Claremont and Byrne had a hand in, to me, that was the stuff that got me collecting comic books in the first place. And I'm interested to see what they do different and what they do the same from the comic books. I mean, it's definitely, for one thing, like the comic books had the future being far in the future and the present being the storyline, except for this one, the present is the bad future and the 70s or the 60s are basically the present for them. So, I mean, it'll be different, obviously, in that respect. But I'm interested to see how they do it, and I'm really stoked to see all of the characters from Bryan Singer's the guys from First Class. I want to see how he mixes those in and makes a coherent movie out of it.
Right. Same here. You know, I think it's interesting because they just did their red carpet over the weekend.
Right.
And I know Bryan Singer wasn't there. We know he's dealing with those allegations. I was talking
Right.
about this in depth a couple of weeks ago. I definitely want to get your take. Do you feel that what's going on with him right now and these allegations, do you think is going to play a huge impact on how this movie does in the box office?
I don't think so. I think, you know, movies and those things, that the entertainment part of it, like that's going to appeal to people. It's going to be a very small group of people that are going to protest the person by boycotting the work. And you know, and I think that's the way it ought to be. I mean, if you're going to revile a guy, or I mean, really, there's nothing 100% sure about these allegations anyway. So until other proof or something comes out that's more concrete, these are just allegations, and you know, I don't think a lot of people are even 100% aware of it. At least the, you know, people that are, you know, following along on Yahoo or checking the daily ticker, they might know about it, but I mean the casual fan probably doesn't know anything about it.
Right. And how about an impact on Bryan Singer's career? I mean, if he comes out on top, he's able to prove his innocence, you think he's going to be okay from here on out, or?
Well, I mean, you look at the people in Hollywood that have gone through similar scandals. You know, some of them have come out of it, and you know, some people it takes a while out of the public eye to sort of get through it. This movie coming out, and then X-Men Apocalypse in 2016, he's going to have a pretty high-profile couple years. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see what happens to him in the next couple months.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you accomplished a little bit of a milestone of your own, speaking about comic books, because you had wrote your own comic book. I know you had went on tour for it last month. How's the feedback been for that?
Very positive, man. You know, it's meant to be an all-ages comic book, so I've had a lot of my friends in the comic book industry give me a lot of good feedback about it. It's a self-published book, so I mean, it might be a little bit harder to find in comic stores than, you know, your average X-Men title or your, you know, the latest Batman issue. But, you know, if anybody wants to go look for it, you can get it at allyeahcomics.com, or you can ask your local comic shop to order it through there. And I'm still going to be doing tours, you know, on my independent schedule, or I'm also, like, for example, I'm going over to London in a couple weeks for the MCM Comic-Con there as a creator. That's going to be a big deal for me. It'll be my first con specifically as a creator where I was invited. I mean, the C2E2 that I just did, I sort of went hand in hand with Art Baltazar and Franco, the guys that created Aw Yeah Comics. But this one, they just invited me out of the blue as a creator slash entertainer, so that'll be neat.
Awesome. Talk about the whole creative process as a writer, because as soon as I had heard this, you involved in it, I'm like, oh wow, this is awesome. Like, was there any similarities that you had learned from being involved in a product with TNA Wrestling, being involved in part with the creative process, weekly scripted television series? Were there any tools that you were able to take from that to apply it to the craft and being a writer, or was it a completely different learning experience altogether?
It was mostly different. I mean, like the difference between writing this story and writing, you know, I'm a storyteller in the sense that my this comic book, this story came to me sort of out of the blue, and I just sort of wrote it, you know, at one sitting at the typewriter almost. You know, the one thing that I took from wrestling that I put in this book is just to try and make sure that everything sort of made sense, and you weren't doing something, I wasn't doing something just for the sake of doing it. You know, the things that happen in this book, there's sort of a straight line of thought process in the character's head. And I mean, I don't want to make this sound like it's, you know, War and Peace or something like that. It really is just a story about Frankie Kazarian and me traveling to the Aw Yeah Comics universe and interacting with Action Cat and Adventure Bug and Awesome Bear, the characters in the Aw Yeah Comics universe. So, I mean, I don't want to downplay the difficulty there was in writing it, but at the same time, this isn't meant to be, you know, Shakespeare. It's meant to be, you know, an all ages, appeal to all levels story, and that that sort of made it easier for me to write, just because I wasn't trying to make it too complex. It wasn't twists and turns and, you know, a denouement at the very end. It was literally just a basic team-up story. You know, the good guys have a misunderstanding. There's a battle. They get through it at the end, and at the end they're all high-fiving and hugging. So
right. And speaking of comic projects, any light you can shed on any upcoming projects that maybe you're going to be involved with? You can share with the folks.
Well, I'm in the process of writing the sequel to this particular story, the Oh Yeah comic story. And I've also written a story for Mike Hingston for his comic book called Headlocked. He's had a couple issues out in the past, but he's coming out with a brand new trade paperback, I believe, in the next couple of months. He's gotten guys like myself, Shane Helms, Jerry Lawler, Ken Anderson, Sin Bodhi. I believe Beth Phoenix is involved. So a lot of these people have either contributed art or contributed story to his upcoming project, and that should be out hopefully in the summer.
Okay, I can't wait to check that out.
Right.
Let's switch gears up a little bit. Let's talk about wrestling. I'm sure your fans and your listeners know by now about your exit from TNA Wrestling.
Right.
You talk about the timing coming off really wrong, because it kind of seems like when you're watching it from that television standpoint, TNA, as far as the tag division goes, it was like, looked like it was being reignited. I mean, we had you and Kazarian doing your thing. We had Sonata, Tigre Uno, and I just got to put this in there. His name still trips me out, man, because it sounds like a freaking energy drink. But, you know, we saw the bromance. A lot of good things was going on for that tag division. Does frustration or irritation kind of come into play for you as far as management and creative, like as far as them not really trying to put in that effort to work with you, whether it be having you in that performer capacity or in a backstage type of role?
Just disappointment, really. Like, I envisioned, especially when Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards came around, I envisioned that there'd be an opportunity for Bad Influence versus the Wolves to be happening on television. But, you know, I found out that that wasn't really in the plans. And so, you know, TNA made the decision that they felt was best for their product. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I mean, in the end, it's their decision, and they need to make the decisions that they think are best for their business, whether it's for financial reasons or creative reasons or a mixture of the two.
Right.
So, you know, disappointment, yes, but not frustration, not, you know, bitterness. It happened before. Every TV booking committee for every company around has made decisions that the fans may, you know, be scratching their heads around. But at the same time, you know, those guys have the long-term picture in their heads, and it may not be clear to the wrestling fans at this point what they're doing or why they're doing it. But hopefully something will come, you know, in the future where people will understand. And at the same time, I'm not, you know, dwelling on that decision. I'm looking forward to working in different companies and the myriad of matchups that are available for myself and Frankie Kazarian now on the independent scene. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what we do in the next couple months.
Right. I can't tell you how many emails, comments I get on social media, especially when we're covering Fallout from Impact Wrestling each week, as I see that there's those diehard TNA fans. I mean, you talk about disgruntled being an understatement. They're seeing guys like you, Frankie, AJ Styles, I mean, the names just go on and on, that are parting ways with the company, as it's really kind of feeling as though TNA Wrestling is starting from scratch. But with so many people I've been talking to, Chris, it seems like TNA is almost at a point right now where pretty soon there's like going to be no more veterans in the promotion. And I can't tell you how many times I keep coming across that typical TNA fan that goes, pretty soon it's going to get to a point where I'm flipping through the channels and I come across TNA. I am not going to recognize anybody, and I'm probably going to flip the channel. My question to you is, how vital is it to veteran performers such as yourself to the success and growth of a promotion?
Well, in terms of my presence there, you'll see in the next couple months, because I won't be there, and you'll be able to notice, you know, before Daniels and after Daniels in that respect. But for people that are saying that they're not going to recognize the talent roster, my retort to that is that there's still going to be guys like James Storm, guys like Ken Anderson, guys like Gunner, guys like, you know, Robbie E. and Jesse, the Bromans. People like Gail Kim and the Beautiful People are still there. And then you're getting an opportunity to see these new talents like Sonata, like Brittany, like Tigre Uno, like Brahm. These guys that are coming up, and even Magnus, who is still somewhat new to the or at least to the position that he's in terms of being one of the top guys. And he's still a young face, and he's still someone that's making strides as a character and making strides as a performer. So, I mean, I think that most wrestling fans will give wrestling an opportunity, and it's up to those people that I just named to give the wrestling fan base reasons to continue to tune in. And I neglected to even mention Eric Young. I mean, the new world champion there. He's been around for a while, and I think he's a recognizable face. He's now the world champion. He's already got another television show in the works on Animal Planet. So, I mean, he's a very high-profile individual and probably a very good choice as far as world champion at this point. Now it depends on building up that fan base and getting them used to the idea of Eric Young as champion and those names that I just mentioned as the linchpins of the company.
I was going to ask you about Eric Young later on, but I'll get into it now. Sure. We've been seeing like the reports coming about from Gerwig and a few others about how Eric Young in particular has been doing as the TNA world champion. It's like maybe 5+ weeks now since he's been champion, and shocking reports here as the ratings for his particular segments, it's been pretty low, to the point that I think this past Thursday they had said that the opening segment, or just all the segments in general, it didn't get any higher than like maybe a 0.90, and they said that a lot of that had to do with Eric Young. I mean, you just talk about the position that he's in. First off, I think it's fantastic that he's the TNA champion. Personally, I question the timing, because for me, I wish he would have been champion during the whole Don't Fire Eric, because I thought he was so white hot right then. But I love the fact that he's champion now. But at the same time, you talk about a difficult journey that he has right now, because TNA is going to be going on the road soon. They're going to be hitting New York. No ETA on when they're going to be coming back to Orlando studios. Huge task that's ahead of this young man as the champion. What's been your take so far on him as champion?
Well, I feel like he sort of got thrown in the deep end. I mean, there wasn't really an opportunity for fans to get behind his road as #1 contender. I mean, it all happened sort of quickly. So, but I mean, that's no fault to Eric. That's just the decision that the creative team made. Now it's up to the creative team and the company as a whole to sort of get behind Eric and sort of, with all the tumult about him becoming champion, well, now that he is champion, the creative team has to decide, are they going to present him as a strong champion and put all their effort behind him, or are they going to continue to sort of view the championship as in, disarray, the championship situation in disarray? Are you going to go back and give the belt back to Magnus? Are you going to use Eric as a transitional champion and put it on someone else? These are all questions that have to be answered in the next couple of months. But I feel like if Eric is given the chance to sort of succeed on his own merit, I believe he can succeed. It's just a matter of, sometimes decisions are made, and like I said, you don't always understand them when they're first made, but hopefully people can take a step back and sort of look at the grand picture, and hopefully things will turn out well for Impact and for Eric Young overall.
I'm being very optimistic with you on that one. I'm definitely hoping for the best, because I actually love him as champion right now. He's the best.
What's not to love?
Yeah.
What's not to love, really?
Yeah, none but love.
He's cuddly.
I got a listener question for you. This comes to us from one of our longtime followers.
Okay.
Yeah, by Robert from Puerto Rico.
Hello, Robert.
All right. He wants to know why TNA never put the world title on you. Now, I've actually been talking about this off and on for the past year, and
right.
You, Frankie, you guys were getting really white hot when you had that whole Claire Lynch story arc going on, because although maybe, and we can all be in agreement in retrospect, maybe it didn't quite work out so well for maybe AJ, but you guys were able to take advantage of that opportunity very well. And I've always said that, man, at some point, before you hung up your boots for good in TNA wrestling, it would be badass to see you as the TNA world champion, because every single time I've personally seen you in a match, whether it's singles competition, tag competition, you name it, you always, I'm in awe when I watch you do your thing. As at some point, the powers that be in TNA considered you for a TNA world title run? If so, why didn't it come to fruition? Can you shed any light on that?
Absolutely not, man. That's not my decision. Those decisions don't come from us. And any wrestler that has ever been asked, why haven't you been world champion yet? The answer is, you're asking the wrong people. When you have your interview with John Gaburik or Dave Lagana or Matt Conway, that's a question you can ask them. I think every wrestler in the world has A, wanted to be world champion at some point, and B, written a scenario where they could be world champion, and I'm no exception. I've obviously, pitched ideas and, thought to myself, well, maybe I could do this, and maybe this could be a position for me. Why they didn't go that way? In the end, it goes back to that long, or the broad picture. Creative teams usually have this broad idea, and they have certain months and months in advance sort of laid out, and their decision making, it's not up to me to sort of question. I just assume they're doing what they think is best for their business. I thought for a while that I was hot enough to do something in that respect, but they obviously had a different idea, or at least they viewed me in a different light in terms of what I could bring to the table, as a character, as a performer.
Okay. And this other question comes to us from Robin in Tokyo, Japan.
Hi, Robin.
All right.
Sure.
What would you consider your all-time best match throughout your career? Now, I'm not sure if he means in general or if he means as far as TNA wrestling goes, so feel free to answer that two different ways if you like.
It's hard. It's hard to pick one match. I mean, it all depends on the timing. It depends on the people. It depends on the crowd. The easy answer for me has always been the first three-way with AJ and Joe, but I also have a very special place in my heart for the time at Slammiversary, the two cage matches that Elix Skipper and I had with AMW, the first singles match I had with Davey Richards at Ring of Honor, the first main event at Ring of Honor with Daniel Bryan and Low Ki, the first championship match in Ring of Honor, the Iron Man match with Doug Williams and Spanky and Low Ki. Like, there's been a lot of stuff that I've been very proud of for different reasons, for different, at different times in my career. So I mean, those are examples. I can't, it's almost like saying which one's your favorite kid. You know what I mean? These are creations that I put out there, and different people look at them different ways, and my reaction to people's reaction to them changed from day to day. My memories changed from day to day about what I enjoyed, what I remembered from those things. And it's hard, like I said, it's hard to nail down one favorite. So I mean, those are pick and choose. Pick your favorite out of those. But those are on my list, so to speak.
Right. I remember a transcript of an interview that you gave last year. You were asked about whether or not you would go to the WWE. And I know at this stage in your career right now, you're at a point where, I mean, we can all be in agreement that WWE, when it comes to them acquiring certain talent, they go through this whole rebranding process, renaming, and you got to basically start from scratch. But let me ask you, would you consider maybe a job with them as an agent or as a trainer at their performance center in Orlando if the opportunity came about?
Absolutely, man. I would be foolish to disregard an opportunity with the World Wrestling Entertainment for any reason. I mean, even if they offered me the opportunity as a performer to go through NXT, I would do it because, that's an opportunity. And I understand, despite the fact that I've got 21 years experience, at the same time, I've never wrestled under their, their rule book, so to speak. So, I mean, any new job that you have, obviously you're going to have to go through an orientation process. And if that meant getting the opportunity with the World Wrestling Federation, if that meant I had to go through NXT and sort of learn the WWE way, that would be fine with me. I understand, I feel like the one thing that I would bring to that is the experience to know that I need that experience to move on. Like, I can't just assume that because I have 21 years on the independents or TNA or, you know, overseas, that I'm ready to be in the WWE. I understand that there's a transition from being on the outside to being on the that, but you know, I'm not hanging my career on whether or not WWE ever offers me that opportunity. No matter what, I'm just happy to be wrestling and looking forward to be wrestling soon in different areas.
Right, right. One of your colleagues, Kurt Angle, he recently had tore his ACL. It looks like now he's going to be out of commission for about 6 months. Timing is very bad too, because his contract, at least take it for what it's worth until we hear something differently, is said to be expiring within that time frame. I wonder if you could maybe shed light on the whole contract situation. Like, I hear in TNA, when you're injured, they don't do like maybe what the WWE and other promotions do, which is, okay, you're injured, you're out this amount of time, we'll tack that on to the end of your contract because we're going to get that time back. But a lot of people that I've spoke with are a little bit upset and wondering just how did it get to this point with Kurt Angle. Do you feel that maybe this was a case where they maybe brought him back too soon, or maybe it was Kurt Angle that brought himself back too soon? Because we all know over the years how determined he's been to go in there and perform no matter what.
I couldn't comment on with any intelligence on that situation at all, man.
Can you at least shed light on?
No idea. If Kurt prepared to come back, what the intricacies of that particular situation are. You know, Kurt, as long as his heart's beating and his feet work, he'll be in the ring if he wants to be. But, you know, at this point in his life, too, he doesn't need to go in there at 30%. You know, and maybe he feels like he needs this time off to add years to his career rather than come back too soon. So I'm not really sure, and I'm not sure what his contract status is going to be, if they feel like the time off that he's taken to get better is going to be tacked on, or if that's just time lost. That's a question for Kurt Angle or John Gaburick whenever those interviews come up on your schedule.
Can you take us through any type of process that a wrestler in TNA goes through when they're injured? Is it a case where they continue to work through their injury until they get proper clearance, or?
I've never really had any problems in terms of injury, so I can't comment. I mean, you know, and I don't know a whole lot of people that have gone through serious injury where I knew the intricacies of their contract. Like, I couldn't comment on anybody's specific situation with the company. I know that I never really missed any time due to injury, and I was lucky in that respect. So that's all I could tell you.
Knock on wood, man. Seriously, knock on wood. Yeah. Tell the folks what upcoming appearances, signings you got coming up, how they can stay in contact with you in the works.
Well, the website is fallenangelchristopher.daniels.com. I just recently updated my schedule page. The next couple things that's happening in the Northern California area, in Newark, California, I'll be at WrestleFest for Big Time Wrestling this coming weekend. The next weekend, the 23rd, 4th, and 5th, I'll be in London for the MCM Comic-Con. I'll be in Detroit the weekend after that for XICW, wrestling Jimmy Jacobs. I have 3 dates for House of Hardcore with Frankie Kazarian by my side. We'll be wrestling Eddie Kingston and Homicide one night, Team 3D one night, and the Young Bucks, all in the space of 8 days. So, I mean, 3 of the top teams on the scene. And it's going to be fun, man. I mean, that's one of the things that I look forward to is getting in the ring with tag teams like Eddie Kingston and Homicide, guys like, you know, Bully Ray and Devon and the Young Bucks. You can't say enough good things about the Young Bucks right now. They're on the tear of their life, and it's going to be an honor to get in the ring with all 3 of those teams in the next couple of weeks. But I mean, you can always keep an eye on my website at my schedule page. Like I said, fallenangelchristopher.daniels.com. I'm on Twitter at FACDaniels. I always try to update there. And, yeah, man, that's pretty much the way to do it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Chris, I really appreciate you taking the time out to do this for our listeners, our fans. Definitely means a lot. And, hey, man, we definitely got to do this again. We'd love to have you back on the show one day.
Sure, man. Thanks very much, and just remember, drink Dasani water. I don't know why I'd give them a plug. They just happen to be close by.
Well,
so.
I like Nestle, but I like Dasani especially.
Water's water, dude. Water's water.
Yeah,
so.
water's water.
Don't be a water.
All right, Chris. Thank you so much, man.